Two. Two, check. Two, check. Two, sibilance. Hello everyone, hello chat, it's nice to see you. How is it going? Welcome. Hey, a question for you, chat. How's the sound? I burned my bagel, but I'm eating it anyway. That's not great. I don't love that. Here's a question, chat. How's the sound? Because I was told today that using this Yeti microphone, you're not supposed to talk into it like this, like I normally talk into like a microphone. You're supposed to talk into it like this, into this side. So apparently this is supposed to be better now. Yeah, I didn't realize this. I didn't realize it, but I get it now. We're slowly getting to the situation that I feel good about here. I just need some more bullshit lighting in this, even though this is the same location that I'm always streaming in. Just need a little bit more bullshit lighting, and then I'm going to be in business. Sounding great, looking great, says Cool G Raps Flat Cap. Thank you, Cool G Raps Flat Cap. Two. Does this turn up the volume? Two. Check. We're getting there. No bi-lighting, biphobia detected. Exactly. We don't want that. We don't want anyone to accuse me of being biphobic. We don't want that. How is everyone doing? How are you doing, chat? What is up? Getting better every day. Hardworking lunch pail streamer. Roll up the sleeves, grab your lunch pail. Head to the content mines. That's me. Chin. I even have a little cozy. I have a little cozy to keep my soda chilled. It was rough yesterday starting the stream with no apple, no soda, no energy drink. I feel like messed up over it. We're in better shape today. To keep my delicate fingers away from the cold drink, exactly. I did not miss the apple. Kiravi, you're not a Apple ASMR enjoyer? I'm sorry to hear that. Some people in the community like it. I don't know what to tell you. You know? I don't understand it either. I muted the stream, afflicted with misophonia. What is that? What is that? Some kind of sound-related uncomfortableness? I believe is the medical term. Who doesn't love the crunch of a crisp app? This is what I'm wondering. It's from that Full Metal Jacket movie. When you don't like wet mouth noises. Wet mouth sounds. I mean, when you put it like that, I mean, that sounds pretty reasonable, yeah. Believe me, I don't totally understand why some people would enjoy that, but some people do. You know, it's not like I'm tuning into that stuff all the time. Cottonmouth Kings, keep it dry. I'll get some of the music back up. Ooh, what's this? I just got a notification from Twitch. We have good news. September is over, but gift sub discounts are still here. Did you know that, chat? Apparently, there are still gift sub discounts happening. Have you seen this? Have you heard about this? I just clicked gift now so I could see what the discount is and nothing's happening. Classic Twitch. That's interesting though. I didn't know that. I wasn't aware of that. We still got some gift sub discounts happening. Wonderful. It's a trap, as Admiral Akbar would say. No, I don't think it's a trap. I think it's okay.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Little Baby Beef. There we go. Thank you for the gifted sub. Currently on the leaderboards. In terms of our most generous chatters. Little Baby Beef. Thank you. My discount is $5 Canadian off 5 subs and so on for the bundles. Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, there we go. Twitch coming through for once. Helping out the little guys. As long as the stream doesn't get banned. There's a lot of bans going around lately. Here on this website. I know the smart thing to do in that case is to like pay attention to what you're saying and not talk about certain things, but as you know, chat, that's not my style. I guess that's the I complain sometimes that I haven't achieved the like big channel streamer status that might lead to a little bit more financial security for me. Sometimes there are benefits to being struggling mid-tier streamers. Sometimes there are benefits, is that you stay off certain people's radar, and you're able to go on here and talk about certain things without being caught up in any kind of large-scale community wars or ongoing beefs where bans start getting thrown around and mass reporting starts to happen. Have you ever been on the front page? Yeah, we don't talk about that anymore. We don't talk about that anymore. The incident, as it's known. We don't talk about the incident. The Stalin incident. What's funny is I had a Demon's VOD open in a tab when she got banned. It's still there, but I'm sure it's only whatever got stored in the cache. What did Denims get banned for, though? Is she really that controversial? I saw Frogan got banned, and Capri Sun Pappy, friend of the stream, Capri Sun Pappy also banned. Briefly. Same thing as Frogan. Should we... Actually, you get in trouble for even looking at that, right? Because I saw the clip. It's the same panel at TwitchCon. Denims, Vio, Frogan, and Capri were all banned for the same thing. Can someone tell me, like, what that was? Everyone that was part of the Arabs podcast episode. Was it like talking about hummus? I mean, this is exactly why when that like World of Warcraft guy was going viral and we were talking about that, why I get a little uncomfortable with like the mass reporting that goes on, because it's just that always comes back the other way. Some dumb tier list. There was a panel that 4 of the 5 of the bands were on. They did a meme tier list of who gets a pass to say Habibi. Wow. Well, we got to make sure we block this dangerous subversive content. My goodness, can you imagine if young people were exposed to this? This kind of hatred? they had to get rid of the people opposed to genocide for fairness to the genocidal monsters. And this is how all of these bans on social media always work. And that's why I was talking about this. It's not that I like these people or I don't want them to get banned, because I do. I don't like the people that go on here and say this kind of thing. I don't think that they should have free speech. I think they should get banned. But anytime this starts, this kind of thing, it always comes back way more severely in the wrong direction. They were doing a joke survey, categorizing people they know into stupid joke categories, and some asshat said it was coded anti-Semitism. Ironically, they put denim in the same category as someone who reported them. The category they put her in was the type of hummus they don't like, so there was a Sabra category. Wow. Dangerous. Really dangerous ideas. You gotta make sure that you crack down on this kind of veiled anti-Semitism, folks. You gotta crack down on this. And the lowest tier was Love Sabra, and Ethan Klein and his cronies were upset because he was trying to say that Sabra meant a Jew born in Israel, but it was very clear the panel was talking about hummus. Yeah, it's a hummus brand, which is part of the BDS list. All because Ethan Klein is such a baby about Hassan. I mean, I really try not to get too involved in this stuff or talk about it too much, like I said, because it just seems to lead to bad things, you know? As much of a dipshit as I might find certain individuals, I also don't want to end up in their crosshairs and lead to negative repercussions for my own account. But it's like, god damn. What a meltdown. What a year-long meltdown that's just ongoing. The complainers are saying Sabra is a dog whistle. They said it was ranking from Muslim to Jew, with Muslim being good and Jew being bad. But if you look at it, that doesn't make sense. These people are just such babies. God damn. Yeah, and then they get banned for that for a month, I believe. And then you have like World of Warcraft guy that lives in his own filth who's like, Palestinians is a degenerate culture or something, and then he gets 2 weeks. And the hummus tier list is like, no, we got to go way farther on this. The lowest tier was Sabra, so the anti-Semitic gotcha was that Sabra is also what Israelis born in the occupied territories call themselves, the origin word of a cactus fruit. Yeah, it's also the name of a BDS hummus brand, and it's the name of a infamous Israeli massacre as well. So it's no wonder that Israelis rally around that designation. Because they love celebrating and embracing their long legacy of violent terrorism. Yeah, weirdly, they named themselves after a massacre. Like, it's not that weird when you think about it. Did Hassan get clapped too? That would be pretty bold of Twitch. One of their biggest, earners. Which is how you know none of this, there's no principle or anything behind any of it. Twitch didn't list that as the reason, though. I know for Vio, her ban email said that the offense occurred on January 1st, 2000. The ban was just so that Twitch could say, yeah, he did something about it. What a stupid platform. Stupid website. We all just need to migrate to Chinese internet, I think. And yet you were on the platform. Curious. It is curious. Yes. I'm on a number of tech platforms controlled by the absolute biggest dipshits imaginable. I just can't seem to get away from it. No, this wasn't because you asked about a front page, Gus. I had wanted to talk about this because I saw that it was going on, and it was like, it's relevant to everything we talk about here. Excuse me. And it's hard not to be a little bit anxious about being caught up in some of these same webs, especially now that the ADL is like specifically posting about Twitch. You know, obviously I don't want to be caught up in any of that as well. I suppose it's good that I'm not on quite the same, like, tier, but you never know now who's looking at this platform for people talking about Israel or Palestine and, painting them with that same brush. A post from the ADL. ADL spoke with the Twitch staff today after becoming aware of several concerning incidents on the social media platform, you said platform twice, you dummies, and or involving Twitch streamers in the past week. We appreciate Twitch for making the right decision to finally suspend the streamer Frogan. It's crazy that the ADL is posting about fucking Frogan. What the hell? For abusing her platform and the TwitchCon event to spread anti-Semitic vitriol during this time of intense apprehension for the Jewish community. Twitch must learn from this situation and improve how they address anti-Semitism and hate on their platform, which is an ongoing and significant challenge. We will continue to engage with the company to help ensure the platform is a safe, respectful, and inclusive space for all, except people that, say that Palestinians deserve to live. Obviously not them. We will also continue to hold them accountable when they fail in that responsibility. Coming from the fucking ADL. So that's it. It's hard not to be a little bit concerned, even if I'm maybe not on that same radar, that, I might be caught up in some of the same stuff. Ethan came down with the case of liberal Zionist derangement syndrome. Many such cases these days. Many such cases. This is from Lil Baby Beef.
Jonathan Greenblatt from the ADL loves Elon Musk, but Jewish voice for peace he calls a terrorist. Jonathan Greenblatt from the ADL loves John Hagee, but puts them to the gulag, oh, any Jew like me. No, they don't keep us safe, rather see us kill. No, they don't keep us safe, goddamn the ADL. No, they don't keep us safe, and they never will. No, they don't keep us safe, fuck the ADL. Jonathan Greenblatt from the ADL wants the feds to spy on student activists like they did my grandparents. Jonathan Greenblatt from the ADL will recruit young Jews to spy on each other to boot. No, they don't keep us safe, rather see us kill. No, they don't keep us safe.
Yeah, I think the ADL has always been like this.
No, they don't keep us safe, and they never will. No, they don't keep us safe, fuck the ADL. Jonathan Greenblatt from the ADL says Jewish hate has risen hard and fast at an unprecedented rate. But the metric that he used includes words like mine that demand the occupation and then free Palestine. No, they don't keep us safe, rather see us kill. No, they don't keep us safe, goddamn the ADL. No, they don't keep us safe, and they never will. No, they don't keep us safe, fuck the ADL. Fuck the
That was nice. I sure hope the ADL wasn't watching that, because that would be really problematic. Ethan has some condition that may also be influencing his psychological state. He's rapidly spiraling downward. No, it's called being a Zionist, but also wanting people to think that you're a good person. That's the mental condition, which gets exacerbated when you see like the culmination of that ideology in this like violent terrorism and mass violence and death towards like little kids sleeping in tents, as well as, you know, women and men and doctors, nurses, journalists, teachers, aid workers. And the more the violence happened, the more this need to be perceived as a good person while still supporting this. And it creates this like this mental split where then you end up focusing on streamers like Frogan and being obsessed with like what these communities and like name searching on Twitter and finding like low follower accounts to like screenshot and post on Instagram as examples of people engaging in like dangerous anti-Semitism towards you. It's such a dangerous combination because it forces you to rewire your brain to accept that actual good people are actually terrible monsters. Yeah, well, and just, you know, it's what leads to this liberal thing of like, oh, they're forcing us to do genocide. They're forcing us to kill their children. They're supporting terrorism. These terrorists supporting Hamas-loving Twitch channels are coming after me because I'm Jewish, not because I support this genocide that's happening. Ethan's public presence has kind of always been something that could be described as rapidly spiraling downward. It's just usually kind of fine because he's fighting Gamergate weirdos. Now it's just him fighting for genocide, so it seems worse. Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't really know much about him. I know that he came from like the kind of like, you know, YouTube bro world. I think made some kind of effort to like pivot to a more like progressive politics persona. There was that whole situation where he got Sam Sater to talk to Crowder, which I remember we talked about. He was doing that podcast with Hassan, and then just has had his brain completely broken by the events of the last year. I mean, just from personal experience as someone with like a large Twitter account, to name search on Twitter and like find what people are saying about you, you have to be deeply mentally sick to do that, I think, honestly. Like there's people that have said all kinds of things about me on Twitter over the years, and it's like, I don't want to know about any of that. I want to know nothing about that. You know, when I have a tweet that escapes containment, I mute it and then I just move on with my life, and I don't look at any of the quote tweets or any of the discourse. I don't care. People can say whatever they want, you know, like that's fine. I don't like it. I don't love it, you know, but people can say what they want. And I do not look into it ever. I stay far, far away from any of that. You have to have a deep kind of mental sickness to be going online and searching like what people are saying about you specifically, and like combing through it and finding everything and screenshotting it and putting it online with these people that you don't know. It's like, it's just, there's nothing good that can come of that. Nothing at all. So that's it. When someone is engaging in that kind of behavior, there's a sign that there's something really messed up going on. Hey Husker, free Frogan, free Capri Sun Pappy, free Denims, free Kira, going on almost a year now for her. Is she ever going to come back to this platform? Like, that's really crazy that's been ongoing that long. He's been hated on for years and never been bothered by it. This criticism hurts him mostly because it's true. And then, yeah, and it gets back to what I was saying about... It gets back to what I was saying about wanting to be perceived as like being a good person, you know? It was permanent and appeals were denied. If she doesn't, I wouldn't blame her. She's been touching grass, and I appreciate hearing that. I'm glad to hear that. You always appreciate when someone can escape this self-imposed prison that we're all in here. So I'm happy to hear that. Perceived to themselves. Well, that's the thing. There's always been this, like, you know, there's been this class of liberal Zionists, and they kind of put themselves in this separate category of the hardcore pro-Israel, pro-settlement people, pro-genocide people. And they kind of compartmentalize themselves, you know, as this separate category. And the events of the last year, especially, if it wasn't clear already, I think to me and many others, it was already clear that there was never this distinction, that liberal Zionism, at least for the last, like maybe you can make the case in like in Israel's initial, you know, founding and like maybe the 60s and 70s, maybe you could make this case that there was this kind of separate ideology, this liberal Zionism that existed. But like the events, it was clear to me already before October 7th, but the events of the last year have just made it totally clear that like there is no separate category. There is no liberal Zionism. And you see the end result of the Zionist ideology ongoing for the last year, and the level of violence, the level of horror that we've seen as the result of that. And you can't say like, no, I still support Zionism, I just don't support this. I'm sorry, but you can't do it. You can't do it. It's not possible anymore. And that's what I think has made people lose their minds, some people. The everything but Israel liberals. Yeah, progressive except Palestine. Like there's a reason that category existed. There's a lot of people like that. I mean, it's most progressive people in like the West, in liberal democracy, like people that are actually elected officials. They can have really great viewpoints on a lot of things. On domestic, you know, policy, healthcare, education, social safety net, all kinds of things. They can have really good ideals, even other foreign policy things. Look at Tim Walz. Tim Walz took some pretty good, decent foreign policy positions over the years as part of the Democratic Party. Like, it's a low bar, but he took some pretty progressive foreign policy positions over the years. But there was always this thing, there's the progressive accept Palestine thing, and that's the last year have made that completely impossible and untenable to do. To pretend that it exists. Some people just don't want to quit white supremacist colonialism. Yeah, exactly. Tim Walz progressive foreign policy positions like Shen Yun good. Well, obviously not that, but I think on Syria, he took some pretty decent positions.
You can count on me. You're gonna have
on
a good
Yemen,
old Rob
he took
to talk you through all this.
Some pretty progressive positions. I think it was Aida Chavez did a whole thread when he was first selected, going over some of his stances that he's taken over the years, which are pretty decent. And even though he's like a weird kind of liberal, like he's like a xenophile China guy, he's also not someone that wants this like hostile relationship with China and the US, and has kind of been somewhat of a voice of reason in that respect as well, even if he has kind of weird views about it. Anon, thank you for 5 gifted subs. That's very kind of you. Thank you, Anon. Very cool. I really appreciate that. The pro-Palestine position singularly destroyed Corbyn in the UK. The media spent years tarring him as an anti-Semite with nothing. Yeah, going along with, you know, groups like the ADL. And I think the whole Corbyn, like for anyone that was paying attention to the whole Corbyn era, it became really abundantly clear the way the way these like charges of anti-Semitism are completely weaponized, totally cynically, to destroy progressive movements, and are based entirely in basic support for Palestine, not any actual reality. And too many people in the UK, progressive people in the UK that liked Corbyn, fell for it. They fell for it and said, "Oh no, and tried to walk this line of like, oh, we like Corbyn, we're progressive, but we also need to take these accusations seriously." That's a lesson that like has to be learned forever. That like you don't have to take these accusations seriously. You don't. No, but James, he does, like I said Sinophile because he does like it. I said that intentionally because he has this kind of like connection with China. Like he got married on the anniversary of Tiananmen and stuff. He has this kind of like, and he likes Shen Yun and stuff like that. It's this liberal like pro-China thing. It's kind of a strange position. He likes the old China, exactly, yeah. But also, like I said, even though he's like an anti-CPC liberal, he's also like, we shouldn't have this hostile Cold War relationship with China, and like he's tried to like tone down the rhetoric about that a little bit to that extent. It was the murals, yeah, exactly. It was a mural. It was like the foreword to a book about imperialism. There was like a few minor things that people latched onto, but really it was about Palestine. It was about criticizing Israel. And that's all it ever was. And it became clear that it was effective. Once it started to stick, you saw once that accusation started to stick and they didn't forcefully push back on it, there was this like the psychotic British press smelled blood in the water, and it just became a feeding frenzy for years over it. And the more that they tried to appease the people that were making this accusation, the more they realized they could hurt them. And there was never anything that they could say to appease them. And I think that was a major lesson from that time. It was a major lesson from that time, watching that take place, that kind of nonstop smears, and then having people in the like Corbyn movement or the progressive media establishment, or what such as it is in the UK, who refuse to push back on it. They refuse to be like, no, we're not taking this seriously. That was the death knell of the whole Corbyn movement when they desperately tried to appeal to the people that were making these accusations. And the more that they did it, the more that they dug their own grave. That's got to be a major lesson for any similar movement moving forward. Did you see Jon Stewart talk to him about Cheney? I didn't see it, but I talked to Jordan on the podcast about this today. Where he said something along the lines of, we're just like giving people that are like, on the fence or against Trump the excuse to vote for us. It was something along those lines, right? Like Butch Ware with Xinjiang. Yeah, that was pretty unfortunate. I saw VJ, a friend of the stream, VJ. They're trying to cancel VJ over his stances on Xinjiang and China and all this stuff. And like, there's no one's beyond reproach, no one's beyond critique, But just this idea of like anyone taking these stances, like, oh no, we can't have him as part of our movement. We can't bring him to this conference because of these stances that he's taken. Literally a statement that's he's calling him a tanky and a campist, which is a sign that you don't need to take. Yeah, that's not a critique. No, I agree. That's what I mean. That's not what that is. And anytime when I see this language being employed, that's an instant sign that you can just disregard something. It doesn't mean that anyone's like beyond reproach. But when you see words like that being thrown around, that's when you know it's completely non-serious, deeply unserious people. Hello, Dakadude. They're going really hard in the paint about tankies and authoritarian communists right now. It's really bad over on TikTok right now. Yeah, and this is what makes me pretty cynical about any kind of pro-Palestine movement turning into any sort of like internationalism, because people are not able to make this distinction. I'm expecting to take into a camp for listening to Rob at some point in the near future. I'll be the guy screaming, "I just like his takes on squibs. I was just in for the Apple ASMR." Yeah, we're all going on lists. Well, like I was saying, I mean, I complain often about the fact that like I wish I had a larger platform on here, and that I was more maybe financially secure, and that I had a larger audience. But sometimes there are benefits to being middling. To being a middling, low to mid-level streamer, is that I'm staying off the radar for now of some of these psychos that are out there trying to, collect lists of people with expressing the wrong opinions about this. I was just in it for the jibes and japes. I actually don't know why Jill Stein gets more mainstream than the PSL candidates. I'm pretty sure they're on the ballot in more or less an equal number of states. A PSL candidate beat Cornel West in the California Peace and Freedom Party primary. Yeah, it would be nice if we were talking about the PSL in these same conversations that we're talking about the Green Party. For which, whatever good stances that the Green Party might take on Palestine or whatever, are also a pretty unserious party that's not based in any kind of like socialist principle or internationalist principle. People know who the Greens are compared to the PSL. Well, that's true, but like part of that is because we talk about the Greens and we don't talk about PSL. Like they should be bringing PSL candidates onto the shows, even as the token crazies, the token lefty crazies, right? The get a load of these guys, people, even though their ideas and their stances are correct. Gloria La Riva was a good candidate for PSL in 2020. Unelectable Airwaves voted Gloria last time. Yeah. Well, they're good. Yeah, they are good. I mean, I've probably not done enough to look at the PSL candidate this year around, this time around. But yeah, they are good candidates because they have correct opinions. But you see, like with PSL, you see a lot of that same stuff where it's like, oh, PSL, they're organizing all these anti-genocide campaigns. They're organizing all these pro-Palestine campaigns. Don't you know that they support genocide in Xinjiang and Tibet, and they were against the Hong Kong protests and all this stuff. And like, that's what people like hand-wring about that rather than actually organizing their own protests. Because PSL has all these ties now to like Answer and Code Pink. There's like a network that's been built up over years that takes correct stances on things, and people that get their foreign policy or internationalist positions from TikTok and Twitter are freaking out about it because they think there's some kind of contradiction between saying there's a genocide going on in Gaza and there's not a genocide going on in Xinjiang. And people think that that's some kind of a contradiction, when really that's just having like a nuanced view of like geopolitics. People have this aversion to internationalism that's born from ignorance. They learn that the empire is bad on Palestine, then when you tell them they're bad on everything, it feels like too much. Like they were too much of a sucker for too long, and they don't want to believe it. It's hard to admit when you got conned, right, James? They cling to the idea that the Uyghur genocide is bad, so their worldview can still be correct on some ways, not wrong in all ways. They can't comprehend that it was all propaganda. Or the Ukraine stuff, right? I support free Palestine and free Ukraine, you know? And there's no contradiction apparently to the United States government arming Ukraine and arming Israel. Why do they do that? Is it because they care about human rights? They got it wrong on this one time, but this one they got it right? This is what people have to do the work, right? They have to deprogram themselves. Ally lovers and sovereignty defenders. Hey, Kill Panic, how's it going? Ukraine can't be trusted. I mean, as always, we've talked about Ukraine plenty, and we've talked about it on here a whole lot. And you can talk about that. It doesn't mean that you think everything that Russia does is good, or that when people die in Ukraine, it's a great thing. Like, you can acknowledge this. Just pointing out that we played a role in creating that situation is so upsetting to people, Even just acknowledging that basic reality that everyone around the world recognizes is the truth. Like, that's always the thing that's frustrating for me about that. Everyone around the world recognizes that America, Canada, and these Western countries deliberately created the conditions that allowed the Ukraine war to take place. And acknowledging that is not absolving Russia or anyone else from doing terrible things. It's just acknowledging this basic reality. Everyone around the world in these non-Western countries, non-predominantly white, formerly and currently colonialist countries, everyone recognizes this. But you point that out here and people freak the fuck out over it. Ukrainian Nazis have been upping their assault of Orthodox communities lately. Well, and I feel like, Dimitri, like that situation is getting to this end game as well, where now they feel they're like the stabbed in the back situation. So now these people, these like extreme reactionary Ukrainian nationalists, they're armed to the teeth, they're trained by the CIA, and they feel like they've been stabbed in the back by the West. Where's that leading? Where is that bringing us? Anywhere good, do we think? Like, when you take this combination of factors, these heavily armed neo-fascists that now have a grudge not only against Russia, but against the Westerners that created the situation in the first place and then abandoned them. I get in arguments wherever I point out that even though Russia's bad, the US and NATO engineered a coup in Ukraine and provoked the invasion. And like, this should not be controversial. Like I said, everyone around the world recognizes this. That's not in like America, Canada, the UK, Germany, France, Australia. Everyone else around the world recognizes this. It's not controversial. It shouldn't even be that controversial to point it out. That's another part of this campaign now with Kamala and Trump. Oh, Trump doesn't stand with Ukraine enough. Trump is too soft on Iran. He doesn't want war with Iran like we do. He's too soft on Russia. He doesn't want to confront Russia like we do. It's just psychotic. Hillary loves putting Stinger missiles into Nazi hands. No bad outcome, leaving them in Europe to make chaos. And as I've talked about now for multiple years, when that blowback does eventually come, there's going to be all kinds of people that supported this every step of the way, going, whoa, what? Clutching their pearls and wringing their hands when the blowback eventually comes from these psychotic, reactionary, nationalist, neo-Nazis, heavily armed by NATO, armed to the teeth, trained by the CIA. When it eventually leads to blowback, people are going to be looking around going, what in the world? Like, it's going to happen. And all the people that have been saying this from day one, and I count myself as one of these people, no one's going to be like, hey, maybe we should have listened to those folks all along. All those folks that we were calling tankies and Putin lovers. Maybe we should have listened to what they had to say. Who could have possibly seen this coming? That's the whole tanky curse, right? It's like you get all these things correct, but you know what? You never actually get credit for it. You can correctly analyze these things, like the Nord Stream pipeline, Folks, I'm not some trained geopolitical analyst. I'm not. I'm just a guy. I used to play in a band. That's my background. Yet, somehow, on the day the Nord Stream pipeline was bombed, on this very stream, we correctly understood what happened. And here we are, like, 2.5 years later, people are like, I think the United States might have been involved in that somehow. And it's like, it's not that hard. It is really not that difficult to figure this stuff out. If I can do it, anyone can do it. Like, I'm not trying to brag. I'm really not. But it's like, it was on that day. Literally on the same day, we knew what happened. The righter we are, the more they want to round us up. That's it. That's the tanky curse. It's you're right. You're proven right time after time after time, and you never get any credit, and nothing gets better. These MFs can employ guerrilla strategies if it hit them in the face, even with the full arsenal of the US behind them. If Hezbollah had 1/100th of the backing of Azov, they'd be doing tricks on Merkavas, hypothetically. And I think you can make the case that, like, Russia was, like, surprised or taken aback by the level of
computer to mark up the size of the account.
Being a tanky is like the Cassandra curse from the Trojan War. Blessed to see the future by Apollo, but damned for no one to believe you.
Man, Dimitri, thank you for the 200 bits. It do be like that. It's really true. No, but I think you can make the case that, like, Russia was even surprised by the level of preparedness that there was. I don't think it's gone great for Russia over the last 2 years, even though it appears to be like they're pretty much getting what they wanted eventually. I don't think they expected it to be this much of a slog. But that's what those years between 2014 and 2020 were all about. It was about arming and training these people for that exact situation. That's why you see that clip of, like, John McCain and Klobuchar and Lindsey Graham hanging out with these Azov guys, which we've watched many times. We'll get you whatever you want. Just keep fighting the Russians. Keep killing the Russians. Apropos the usual Westerner excuse, very few people voted for the Nazis in Ukraine. In all of Europe, Nazis have progressed significantly since 9/11, but they're all very slick and dressed nice and have good communication with the press. They never use Nazi insignias or do the Hitler salute, and the fact that so many Ukrainians openly display their Nazism without pushback and their Stepan Bandera worship means the country is completely accepting of and celebrating Nazism. And also, yeah, they point to that election, like electoral results, Diego, which I think when Zelensky was elected in the first place, as I've talked about a number of times, because he was campaigning on ending the war, which I think a lot of people across the country in Ukraine, in both the East and the West, wanted to see, because they didn't want this civil war to be going on. And regardless of whatever marginalized levels there are for these fascists in Ukraine, they're obviously playing a large role in the actual like military establishment and the military culture and the whole reshaping of this like nationalist myth. You know, they might be marginal in these elections, but they're still taking down across the country statues of these like Soviet partisan heroes who fought the Nazis and putting up monuments to these fucking fascist Holocaust supporters. You know, that's not just a marginalized group. That's like a widespread ideology that's completely taking hold. It makes it even worse that they had such low support, and yet we still put them in charge. Yeah. Yeah, and they were the vanguard of that Maidan coup. They weren't all of them. And when you see these, we've looked at these clips, like you've seen these Nazis bragging too. It's like, it would have just turned into like a pride parade if it wasn't for us. Remember in 2018 when the Dems passed the Stop Funding Azov Nazis bill? That was so long ago. Yeah, it was important when Trump was doing it. And when Trump was like, what was happening? Trump, Putin's man, apparently. Remember the Putin sympathizer, Putin supporter, the Putin puppet, Trump, arming Ukrainian Nazis to fight Russians. Weird 4D chess there from Trump. Trump was helping arm these Nazis to fight Russians, and Democrats were like, no, that's too much. And then they all changed their mind. They all immediately changed their mind as soon as Biden's in office. Yeah, a lot did change on that front with Ro Khanna and those folks. Went from Trump loves Nazis to we have to arm these Nazis. Yeah, and again, Trump loving Nazis who were fighting Russians, who apparently Trump was being controlled by Putin. Also sanctioned Russia and Iran with full support of the Democrats. And as we've talked about before, if we thought the whole Russiagate situation was bad in 2017, 2018, I don't think any of us are prepared for what's coming if Kamala does lose this coming election. It is going to be insane. I do want to kiss Putler, and George Santos is my queen, and I will continue to be annoying about it. Okay, well, no one's trying to stop you. Wasn't one of Trump's impeachments for not arming Ukraine fast enough. Also, good morning, all. Hello, Carnoba. I mean, that was the perfect phone call thing. I don't totally remember the full details of it, but it did have to do with Ukraine. And Trump with the perfect phone call. Did you see the clip of Jeremy Scahill on MSNBC a couple days ago? Yeah, when he was talking about Scene Noir, it was great. I mean, I think Jeremy Scale's been doing a really good job of expanding the scope of how we talk about Israel and Palestine and Hamas and Hezbollah and Sinwar and Nasrallah and all these people. You know? I appreciate what he's been doing in that respect. Going on MSNBC of all places and making this case, making a kind of like critical defense of someone like Sinwar and trying to make people understand how someone like Sinwar becomes who he is. I shared the shit out of it. We can watch it on here. It came up yesterday, and I probably should have watched it then. Dems revenge because Russia never released the P tapes. Yes, Kill Panic, you can still believe in it as a little treat. I give you permission. Anyway, a little brief call to action, folks, before we move on here. An hour into the stream. If you do enjoy this program and you want to support the work that I do on Twitch, please subscribe. There are still gift sub discounts going on right now. There's no more September, but there are still gift sub discounts happening right now. So if you want to support this program, if you have the means to, if you enjoy the show and the analysis and the jibes and japes, the interviews and all the whatever it is that you like about it, please subscribe if you can. Little call to action for you. As you know, I'm trying to make this little number at the bottom of the screen go up each and every day. Instead of throwing rocks at your neighboring country's border troops, I want to throw some gift subs at Rob.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Dimitri, thank you for the gift sub. Malaka, thank you. Like your fantasy team? I don't know, so Law Whatever Dog, I know we had a fantasy draft last night, and I had another fantasy draft for another NBA team at the exact time, and I couldn't switch back and forth. So I had to auto draft, and I don't totally know what I ended up with. I don't love it. I wanted to try and do both, but I couldn't go back and forth.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
We're going to try to make the best of it.
Rob mode 2.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Spaceman, thanks for the 13 months tier 1. I appreciate that a lot. And thank you, Noam Chomskusi, as well, for the gifted sub. Very cool. I appreciate it. Thank you for that. And remember, if you want to gift, if anyone wants to batch gift sub anything today, it is currently on sale. You got a big discount. Big discount on those.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Dr. Spachemin. Perfect Speller, thanks for the 14 months. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. We don't need to do all the golden shower imagery. I don't think that's necessary. I don't think it's necessary to do that. I do have a bit of a harder cutoff today, so... Ooh, and we got a hype train incoming, folks. Another gifted sub could get it out, get it out of the station. We do have a possible hype train. I do have a hard cutoff at 3 today, so it's going to be slightly shorter. I'm going to try and squeeze in all the discourse. But you see, I toned down on the chit chat. There was very little chit chat. We got right to business. So even if we might be cutting the stream a little bit short, we got right into it. Got right into the shit.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Little Baby Beef, thank you for another gifted sub. I really appreciate all the support this year. Well, not this year, just over it's been just a couple of months. And I appreciate the support, seriously. As a leftist, I love trains. Well, me too. Maybe we can do a DPRK style, attach a hypersonic missile to this one.
We simply use the computer to mark up the size of the
shall
account.
Not be named.
Chugga 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 chugga. Israel is an apartheid state. Chugga 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 choo choo.
Thank you, Joe110, for the 200 bits. I appreciate that.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Diego, thank you for the gifted sub as well. Catalepsy says, I need the chit chat. Listen, I love the chit chat as well, believe me. I love the chit chat as well. Everyone knows I love the chit chat zone. In DPRK, you have to pull the hypersonic missile yourself. You literally just launch it. Just launch it like that. Your bare hands. We've got one who reads in the chat too, saying, remember the comrades without the means to slub to rib. One who reads is looking for someone to help them count on having good old Rob to talk us through all this. I don't know why I keep doing it. It's just whenever I see the triangle, I just hit the gift to sub button. Well, I'm not going to complain.
You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
I miss the spinny globe. I must say, I do miss the spinny globe. I miss having the spinny globe in the corner. I think I got to set this up. I think I wasn't sure if this computer could handle the processing power of having the spinny globe as well, but I think I might have to try because it just doesn't. I feel naked without it. CBC has all these articles about DPRK soldiers in Ukraine fighting with Russia, but nothing on the forced movement of people out of northern Gaza. Why is that? It's a mystery. I wish CBC and these other Western media outlets would do more to try and educate and inform people about why somewhere like DPRK would support Russia, or why all these different African nations are supporting Russia, or different like Latin American nations. Maybe you could actually help people understand why these connections exist rather than just like fear-mongering about it and hand-wringing over it. And suggesting that it's all because of propaganda and disinformation. Or why Ukraine is winning when it is losing on every front at once. I saw a tweet actually that I think made a lot of sense, that it's like where you talk about, the West talks about Sinwar like he's a terrorist, and they uphold Zelensky like he's this heroic freedom fighter, when Sinwar is who they want Zelensky to be. You know, one guy is born in a refugee camp and gets held in prison for 20 years, or however long it was, excuse me, and then spends his whole life fighting and struggling against this occupation. And one guy is getting this big, comes from show business and goes on this big Western tour promoting him as this brave hero. 22 years. Okay, I wasn't wrong. North Koreans are bad, though. Look at all the countries they've invaded in the last 70 years. Exactly. Israel having Gaza settlement conferences and CBC doesn't say a peep about it. No, they say a peep about it. They say that the people that are protesting it are anti-Semites. They say that. You know? Don't say that they're saying nothing. Yeah, this is really what it comes down to, isn't it? A tale of two ethnicities. Now, if Sinwar is a soap opera actor, then maybe they'd care slightly more. Yeah. Yeah, one gets all the magazine covers, he gets brought to all the different parliaments, gets brought on a big world tour, gets held up on mainstream media. This is the brave hero. Remember all the creepy phenomenon of all these like Ukraine Reddit guys being like, have sleep with my wife, Zelensky. Remember that whole weird phenomenon? I want this man to sleep with my wife. It's like, why do you immediately go to that? That's a little odd. That's a little odd that you would immediately go for that, you know, without being like, oh, this man is brave. He's fighting the Russians. These Reddit guys are just like, sleep with my wife. All right. I missed that one. Well, you didn't miss much. I don't even know how I would try and search for that. I'm not gonna pollute my Google results trying to find examples of what I'm referring to here. St. Louis, you're licking the Gladiusi. I think they're moving away from the perverted popcorn buckets. This Gladiator 2 one. Unless you do the old hole in the arena floor trick. I guess that could be part of it. Here's the Scahill speech. Like, again, I think this is pretty incredible that this aired on MSNBC. And, you know, I wish there was more like Palestinians and Muslims that were actually out there like on TV able to make this case. You know, we shouldn't have to listen to like people like Jeremy Scahill over it, but setting aside like, you know, why that happens, and the fact that it's people like Jeremy Scahill that end up being able to go and make this case when other people are not allowed to without being accused of being like terrorist supporters or whatever, which he still is, obviously. And Jeremy Scahill as well did a lot of really valuable journalism for years, going back to the Obama administration, Obama's drone warfare and stuff like that. But I do think it's pretty incredible that this aired on MSNBC, though. You know, in a time when like Kamala Harris and like Justin Trudeau, Joe Biden, they're all talking about Sinwar like he's this bloodthirsty, violent terrorist. And MSNBC, which is functionally like a propaganda arm of the Democratic Party, had Jeremy Scahill on to make this case, I think is pretty impressive.
Co-founder of Dropsite News and co-founder of The Intercept. Jeremy, it's great to see you again. I know you've covered Hamas extensively throughout the year. You know a lot about Yahya Sinwar and other Hamas leaders. Can you tell us why, first of all, he has been so controversial as a figure to the Israelis and the Americans even before October 7th?
Yeah, I just want to begin by saying that as we're speaking tonight, the Israelis are waging an extermination campaign in the north of Gaza. For the past 2 weeks, they've surrounded the area, and they've intensified it after the killing of Yahya Sinwar. No food or medicine of any kind has reached most parts of the north. I'm in direct touch. I'm in with medical officials in the north and with journalistic colleagues. I understand that at least 80 people have been killed tonight in a horrifying set of attacks on half a dozen residential buildings. I've just gotten done seeing images from the ground where children are being shredded like meat in a butcher shop. I don't understand how any of us, whether we're journalists or not, this isn't about objectivity, how any of us can watch this genocide unfold in real time and watch the pontificating of the politicians running for president and not just cry out, this has to stop. I mean, this has to stop. We've looked at this. I mean, I know you've reported on the ground from Gaza. I mean, we're watching a genocide in real time, and I'm sorry, but on this network also, there are people who have promoted propaganda from Israel. There are people cheerleading for those running for office.
This is crazy. This was on MSNBC.
Concern for the Palestinians.
Well, Iman got canned like Mehdi. I'm sure he probably will. I'm genuinely kind of shocked that he has this platform and that he brought on Jeremy Scale to make this case. It's genuinely quite surprising.
And yes, we should talk about Yahya Sinwar, but Yahya Sinwar is also in many ways the story of Gaza. You know, yes, this was a violent man, but his violence was rooted in the fact that he was born in a refugee camp. And Israel, throughout his entire life, waged a war of annihilation against the Palestinians. I'm not here to defend Yahya Sinwar. I'm here to say...
I like how he says, like, I'm not here to defend Yahya Sinwar, and it's like, you kind of are, though. Like, I know he has to say that, but it's like, but... You kind of are a little bit, though. You kind of are defending them, and that's good. I think it's good. I think it's actually really incredible that he was doing this on MSNBC, but it's funny that he has to use this kind of language. I'm not here to defend him, but... And he has this really passionate defense.
That we can't talk about you. And Israel, throughout his entire life, waged a war of annihilation against the Palestinians. I'm not here to defend Yahya Sinwar. I'm here to say that we can't talk about who Yahya Sinwar was or what Hamas is without talking about 76 years of colonialism, of apartheid, of mass killing, of mowing the lawn, of controlling the calories. Yahya Sinwar's death, the White House is saying this provides a moment to sort of pivot and to make a settlement. And what does Netanyahu do in response to those speeches from Kamala Harris and Joe Biden?
Albright all day, neither. Lock them both up.
And John Kirby, he doubles down. Yeah. He goes full force, final solution on the people of northern Gaza. Yes, let's talk about Yahya Sinwar, but my God, we cannot watch more children being shredded and say that this is okay.
Well, this is
just a political issue.
No, I was actually going to get to that because I was going to ask you, based on what you've just outlined for us about him, I was going to say that despite the killing of Yahya Sinwar, who was Israel's most wanted man, who was their excuse for basically doing everything as the mastermind of October 7th, we're still seeing attacks against Palestinians in northern Gaza.
Well, it's one or the other, man. No, it's not. It's not one or the other. I hope they both lose.
As you just outlined with the siege that
I reject your framing. I reject your question.
After a year of complete annihilation. And this was on the heels of an American president and a vice president who have said it's time for a new page, and the Israelis continuously buffing them and defying every time they've given them basically an order or a demand to change course.
Yeah, that's right. And what's interesting is that the Israelis have portrayed for the past year Yahya Sinwar as a rat hiding in tunnels, using Israeli hostages as his human shields. And certainly Yahya Sinwar and others in Hamas operate in these tunnels. That's been well known. But look at the narrative, even from Israel's perspective. You laid some of this out. Yahya Sinwar died in combat gear, with one of his arms basically severed, in the middle of the front end of it, and he manages to throw a stick at a drone. And the Israelis put this out, and they sort of did Sinwar's job for him by solidifying his reputation as a man who was willing to die for the cause of Palestinian liberation. So we're in a situation right now where the entire Middle East is on fire. Netanyahu's house was hit. Hezbollah had one of its most successful drone strikes recently on the Golani military base, killing a number of Israeli soldiers. The United States has moved the THAAD missile system into Israel, has troops on the ground. The White House is sort of humble bragging that U.S. Special Operations and intelligence were assisting Israel in the operations on the ground in Gaza, including high-value targeting operations. And we have a lame duck president who really seems intent on following through with his undying support for Israel at a time when an utter lunatic is in office in Tel Aviv right now that is threatening what would amount to just a complete incendiary arson campaign throughout the Middle East that's going to be bankrolled and armed by the United States. We are in a moment where this has to stop.
Right.
We can't just sit here as journalists or normal people or whatever your job is and watch human beings shredded and say that's self-defense. Nothing is self-defense about this. I've covered wars for 25 years. There is nothing about self-defense with what Israel is doing right now tonight in northern Gaza.
Let me ask you finally, if I can, about whether or not, those in the U.S., some neocons, certainly a lot in Israel, see this as an opportunity to strike Iran, given the fact that Hezbollah has been weakened, Hamas has been weakened, and they see their attempt to redraw the maps of the Middle East, certainly going after the holy grail of regime change, and that is going after Iran. What is the likelihood of that? And more importantly, what would that mean?
Look, I mean, there's a reason that Dick Cheney endorsed Kamala Harris, and it's not, about, oh, we don't want Orange Hitler to come back into power. The neocons are looking at the situation right now with the Biden administration and saying, we wouldn't have been able to achieve this. There's common ground here. This is not just about preventing Donald Trump. The neocons have long wanted the kind of war that the United States is now facilitating, and it's a bonus that it's happening under a Democratic administration because the Biden-Harris camp has been able to kind of normalize some of this for parts of their base.
All right, Jeremy Scahill, I really appreciate you joining us tonight. I appreciate you, again, reminding the world what is happening in northern Gaza, as has been happening almost every day for the better part of a year. Thank you, my friend.
And people should know that you reported bravely from the ground in Gaza yourself, and you broke an incredibly important story back in 2014. So thank you for all of your incredibly important work on the ground there.
Thanks, Jeremy. Thank you so much.
Again, it's genuinely kind of shocking that this aired on MSNBC. I would be shocked if this program was allowed to continue. This program with Iman. It's genuinely quite surprising. I appreciate him as well. Again, Scahill did such great work during the Obama administration to expose Obama's administration's horrific drone warfare and warrantless assassination program. Someone that has done a lot of really, really valuable advocacy and journalism over the years to expose the crimes of U.S. empire. And the crimes of Israel are, by extension, the crimes of the U.S. empire. What's the anchor's name? It's this guy, Ayman. I don't really watch MSNBC, so I'm not familiar with a lot of the actual characters on there. But again, just very surprising that was on, that aired on MSNBC, and I would be shocked if we saw more stuff like that. Where you have been compromised. I'm in the same location that I always am, Crackety Kraken. I'm in the same location as I always am. Nothing to worry about. Okay, I have another hour left to do the stream. There's this breakthrough news piece from Palestine.
Hello, everyone.
With Rania Khalek and Gadi Francis from Palestine to Lebanon. Resistance to Israel will never surrender. This seems like a good thing to watch. Maybe we can't make it through the entire thing, but we can certainly try. That's a bad pause face for Rania.
Why not?
He's in the trendy Toronto neighborhood of Greater Montreal. I don't know what you're talking about. So let's take a look at this breakthrough news piece. This should be good, as usual from them. Once again, folks, if you do want to subscribe, please do if you can. Help me keep this show on the air. 13 out of 35 subs. Trying to make this number at the bottom of the screen go up each and every day. The one there at the bottom of the screen. If you can, please subscribe. Gift subs on sale right now. in batch form. You get a little discount if you want to subscribe to the program or gift subs to other people. Very generous. I appreciate it a lot. Please subscribe if you can. Let's hear from Rania Khalek and Gadi Francis.
I'm Rania Khalek, and this is a special live episode of Dispatches. After a year of Israel's unrelenting genocide in Gaza, which has now spread into Lebanon, the resistance to it is fiercer than at any point in the history of resistance to Israeli colonialism. Despite operating under the most dire of circumstances,
you're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Rob, apparently you have to pledge allegiance to dips and spreads now or you get banned for 30 days.
That's right. Yeah. You can't have any bad... Let's not even get into... We're not even going to get involved in the hummus wars, okay? It's just too controversial for this website. But thank you, King Window, for the 47 months and for all the support. Thank you.
Out of a besieged death camp, Hamas continues to fight and exact casualties. And despite its entire senior military leadership being assassinated, Hezbollah is firing over 100 missiles at the Israelis daily and is staving off a ground invasion as we speak. Still, the losses are huge, unprecedented even, with scenes out of northern Gaza reminiscent of Auschwitz and more Lebanese destruction and displacement than ever before. The grim reality is that Israeli cruelty is only going to get more sadistic, more depraved, and more genocidal. Israeli society is consumed by exterminationist hate. As long as the US-led rules-based order allows the impunity to continue, the horrors will get worse. There's no scenario where the Israelis stop on their own. They'll keep expanding, keep torturing, keep raping, and keep escalating until they're stopped by outside intervention, which means either the US cutting off the weapons flow or the power of Israel's adversaries regaining their deterrence through force. To discuss the latest developments, I'm joined by Lebanese journalist Gadi Francis. Gadi, welcome back to the show. Hello.
Thank you for having me. We missed you in Beirut.
Well, thank you for joining me from Beirut, and we've missed you here at Breakthrough News. The last time I had you on was about a month ago, and it was just after the pager attacks. And before we get into some of the more specifics about what's taking place today, I'm just curious if you could give us a bit of an overview of how Lebanon has changed in the last month. I mean, for the country, for you, there's been a dramatic escalation of basically all-out Israeli war on the Lebanese people.
First of all, Rania, you are a daughter of this land, and you understand that we have been weaved and made in a way to, we're proud. We are proud people, even as we have around 1 million, which is like a quarter of the Lebanese society, forcibly displaced under the attacks and the bombings of their homes and the annihilation and the destruction that is carried on with impunity by the Israeli occupation forces. Even as we undergo all this, you can see people are still proud and they're telling you that we are ready to face this. We have the stamina to wait, and we trust, and we are confident in the long-term victory. You see, the Lebanese people, especially these people that are displaced today, have been face-to-face with this kind of atrocities for decades. It's just the frequency or the amount of the attack is unprecedented for sure. The assassinations were very big, of course. But as the military operation goes on, you see the people's spirits are still being lifted by the actual ground facts that are happening in the south, by the rockets, by the drones, by the capacity of the Lebanese resistance that is emerging day after day. So yes, Lebanon is undergoing an unprecedented attack. Beirut is being bombed. The southern suburb is being destroyed. It hasn't been. People tell you that in 2006 it was the same. It is even more this time. But it all is about the mindset. You see, for me personally, Rania, we've been living in this one way or the other. Whether it's Tufan al-Aqsa, whether it's after 7 October, or if it's 20 years ago or 10 years ago, the project of Zionism in Palestine has always been expansionist. They've always been this racist. They've always planned to do this. And they have precedents of trying to do this. I think now Netanyahu is on a killing spree, and since he has the chance to, and the US backing to, he's trying to destroy Hezbollah, to maintain something at his northern borders. Whatever he's trying to do, he's shooting himself in the foot. And this is what Israeli media is saying. And now we can discuss throughout this live how and why Israel is on an escalating, and it's just catalyzing its self-destruction by all these atrocities that are happening, whether it's in Gaza, northern Gaza, Jabalia, southern Lebanon, Syria, Yemen. I mean, who didn't they bomb yet?
I mean, okay, so I got to just take a brief pause because I was honestly, I don't know how I still even have a capacity to be shocked by this, but it is honestly fucking insane to me that they're doing this. Like the same shit. Like I genuinely can't believe it, folks. Israel War Room, IDF reveals Hezbollah constructed massive bunker under Beirut hospital, where the group is currently hoarding cash. We got a hidden Hezbollah treasury under this Beirut hospital. They're still doing this, but now it's in Beirut. It is so insane that they're still doing this. No matter how, it's so lazy, the propaganda, no matter how many times it gets proven to be false, but it's like they're still doing it. They got a Hezbollah command center under the Beirut hospital now. And remember, we keep going over this. A year ago, we were speculating, oh, Israel would never bomb a hospital. It must have been Hamas. It must have been Islamic Jihad or one of these other groups, a misfire. Get the OSINT guys out there. Get the media out there. Get the politicians out there to suggest Israel would never do such a thing. Now it's a year later, and they're like, oh, look, there's a Hezbollah command center under this Beirut hospital. It's insane. And they're having to go to these hospitals to prove that they're lying, and it doesn't make a fucking difference. A journalist from Lebanon's Al Jadad TV visited Al Sahel Hospital in Beirut, toured the underground floors.
وهون ببلش اوض العمليات اذا بدكم. اذا هذا هو الطابق السفلي الذي
يدعي
العدو الاسرائيلي انه انفاق. هذا هو لا يوجد شيء الا مستلزمات طبيه. عرفنا على
هي رفقة عمليات.
This is so insane that anyone believes this.
هاي طاولة العمليات. نعم. التجهيزات اللي بتنعاز.
التجهيزات الطبية، المستلزمات، المستحضرات.
كل شيء طبي مثل ما بتشوفي حضرتك.
نعم يعني بالفعل هناك بعد عم شوف كمان ايضا بعض الممرضين بعض الاطباء الذين نعم هيدا ستور صغير بنحط فيه كل شيء هيك مثل ادوات طبيه معدات طبيه للاستعمال دغري الاستعمال الدغري انه اذا عايزه. نعم خلينا نقرب بس شوي تيشوفوا بعينهم كل
Like it's ludicrous. And that was the Al Sahel hospital. That's the one that the IDF was showing the graphic. So that's the same hospital, but they're bombing other hospitals in Beirut. This was just from earlier today. Near Beirut's Rafik Hariri Hospital, a search for survivor continues. An Israeli strike there on Monday night flattened 4 buildings, 13 people, including a child, were killed, 57 wounded. No evacuation warning. This is Beirut. This is not Gaza. What is happening? How are, like, genuinely, how are they allowed to continue to do this? Like, I find this so psychotic. You know, it's one thing, it's barbaric and criminal when they're issuing evacuation orders in Gaza, when they're engaging these bombing campaigns. But then they're issuing evacuation orders to Beirut residents ahead of strikes. Israeli military spokesperson Daniel Hagari announced that early evacuation warnings are being issued to residents of Beirut and other areas in Lebanon. This is not Israeli territory. And like Gaza is not even supposed to be Israeli territory either. That's barbaric in and of itself. They're issuing evacuation orders to another sovereign country, the capital city of another sovereign country that borders them. How is Israel issuing evacuation orders to residents of Beirut? How is this allowed to happen? It is so insane. Yeah, they told them to evacuate. Now they can do whatever. If they stay there, it's their fault. Whatever happens is their own fault. We told you to evacuate. If you stayed, you must be Hezbollah. If you evacuate, you're Hezbollah. If you stay, you're well-trained Hezbollah, as the saying goes. It is just so psychotic. You know, issuing an evacuation order in the capital city of another sovereign country. Anyway, let's go back to this talk.
That's a good question. Who haven't they bombed yet? And okay, so let's move to the issue of the resistance right now, because in the U.S. media and in the Western media more generally, as I'm sure you know, since Hassan Nasrallah's killing a month ago now, almost, and all of the elimination of the Hezbollah senior leadership and the various blows that Hamas has taken over the last year, you would think the Israelis are winning, right? Because they're exacting so much destruction around them. Like, yes, they're bombing hospitals, they're killing paramedics, they're blowing up entire villages. So Hezbollah, Hamas, Iran even are being portrayed as very weak. So let's talk about Hezbollah, because everyone thought a month ago, here at least, that Hezbollah's over, including Hezbollah's enemies inside Lebanon, by the way. But what we've seen over the last week, and I'm just going to point out a few things. A week ago now, it seems like it was a month ago, Hezbollah managed to hit an Israeli military base and kill several Israeli soldiers, and there was a lot, dozens of casualties near Tel Aviv just a week ago with a drone. Over the weekend, they managed to send in a drone that hit Netanyahu's residence in Haifa. And they've been, sending ballistic missiles over to Israel from Lebanon. And they've also been on the ground in South Lebanon, pushing back an Israeli invasion. And that's just a few of the things that we've witnessed since everyone's saying Hezbollah is about to collapse, Hezbollah is about to collapse. So you're in Beirut right now. From where you're sitting, Ghadi, how is Hezbollah performing since the assassination of its entire military leadership? Do you see this as a weak group that's on the precipice of collapse, or is there something else going on here?
I think what the Israelis have done to this organization is just a forced revival, and some might argue that it was a much needed one, because when you are a military group and you are used to fighting and then you rest for a decade, corruption, politics, rest happens to the organization. And then there are two kinds of people in Hezbollah. There are the people who are on the ground fighting and the people in the society benefiting from this strength. The tremendous shakeup that happened because of all that is being carried on by the Israelis, whether it's assassinations or bombings or the pager attack or the destruction of all the infrastructure of the southern suburb of Beirut, because it's not about arms or Hezbollah people here. It's about, like, for example, yesterday, they just hit buildings that are empty just to say that this society is supposed to be destroyed. So what these atrocities are reviving in the ideology, in the organization, it's the sense of existential war. The difference here, and I'd really like to discuss that with you, the Israelis are carrying out an existential war because they know that they cannot go on like that. They think by killing us all, they might gain some time. Us in Lebanon, we did not really, like Hezbollah or the Lebanese resistance, did not really start as the end game kind of war. It started as solidarity with Gaza to help to ease in that attack on helpless children and women in Gaza. But today, after the Israelis made it like personal with Lebanon, they just made all the fighters angrier. They made it personal, and they killed their modern day Hussein figure. So basically, you just reminded them of their existential fight. And after killing their Hussein figure and all their Hussein's friends figures, all the leadership, all their father figures in the organization, after you do that, you go after their civilians and you start making them feel dehumanized inside your media, in attacking their homes and their land with white phosphorus. So what you're doing is that whether some people were a little bit like skeptical or hesitating about this confrontation, everybody's now all in. I could see some activists, some journalists, even some of the Christian rightists from some of the southern villages. In the beginning of this war, they were saying, it's not about us, it's about Hezbollah, we don't want that fight. But then after the Israelis hit churches in southern Lebanon and they killed their friends in a Christian village after hitting the medical teams, the rescue teams, well, this same person who's known for his political stances started writing anti-Israel. So what Israel is doing in the Lebanese society, it is reminding the new generation of activists, of politicians, of emerging journalists and people with voices, whether they're comedians or artists, they are rebranding us just like the people we read and learned about that were in Beirut in the 80s and that were writing and working and active anti-Israel. I think for me, in the long run, yes, it is very hard today. I'm not going to kid here and tell you it's so nice that I hear bombing every day in my life and that I know all my people, most of my friends have been displaced. I have been displaced more than once in the past 3 weeks for different reasons, whether it's danger or alarms or alerts or the sound. Okay, so we're not comfortable in that war. It's not easy to be in that war. But because it's a 77-year-old war, when you look at the differences, you cannot disregard the idea that we are doing way better. Our stamina is big. We can take our threshold of going on and resisting and existing in war is way bigger. We can take more pain, okay? And now, and after 77 years, we don't only have drones, we have intelligence capacities that could tell us about their secret bases in Benyamina and southern Haifa. They were having dinner. Golani, the best kinds of soldiers in the Israeli, $17 billion have been paid from the US taxpayer money during this year for these idiots to kill children. After $17 billion and all that weapons and ammunitions and impunity, a bunch of underground organization men from Lebanon, from southern Lebanon, these people you dehumanize, were able to crack your intelligence to find out where the Golanis are having dinner and to send them a drone to that table while they were having dinner, regardless of the idea that we don't know and the Israelis don't tell us about their casualties and their losses. The idea of safety for Israel is defining. It's not like Lebanon. For us, I hear the bombing, the house shakes, I don't move. It's not great, but we've been through that. For us, it's not about being safe, it's our land. But on the other side of that war, there is a fake society made up and built up by people imported from all around the world, sold the idea that this is your promised, safe, cute land where you can squat and be protected by the world to be here in other people's land. When they are spending that time in the shelters, they're going to change their mind. And this is the exact idea of what Israel is. Israel is a settler society. When settlers are packing their bags and leaving, they are undoing the idea of Israel. But for us, when we leave our southern villages, we've done that 3 times in our history, and we've rebuilt them 3 times. We've seen that happen, and we are ready. And the people tell you we are ready to do it once again because we've paid a big price. We've lost our loved ones. We have paid a lot of pain and blood and tears to back out of this fight right now when we're that close, when we've seen our children, our men build drones and build planes monitored and capable of cracking this $1 billion air force and air protection system for Israel and get to Benjamin Netanyahu's home to make out a historical point where this is the first time in the history of the Zionist entity where a resistance group, an organization actually attempts to assassinate the Prime Minister of Israel. This is also another defining moment, because they think they are better humans and they have been chosen to kill us. So when you tell them that us as dehumanized creatures, as like brown, less humans, are capable of taking the head of your system out with our drones, made with sweat and blood and tears, you are telling them that the whole project is off, that the whole plan is not going to work, that the whole Israel is just going to crumble. I know we are paying a lot of blood. I know that this is not something fun to go through. But what I also know is that the road to liberation has always been like that. There is no easy way to liberation from an expansionist, ethno-supremacist, war criminal, Zionist entity that has been planned, a colonial apartheid state. It's not going to be easy to dismantle it, but I tell you, all the tools have been broken. They have nothing to rebuild. Their economy is crumbling, their security is crumbling, their trust is crumbling. Their army doesn't want to go to the fight. They just want to use planes and bomb children. Can you see their internal conflict about coming to the northern borders? They don't want to fight our men because they don't have a cause here. Mm. What's their cause in taking our villages? They don't want to come and die. They just want to kill us. But for us, we are willing. I tell you, I am willing. I'm a woman. I'm a journalist. I'm not a fighter. I'm willing to die before I give my home to any Polish settler.
I mean, that makes perfect sense. I think most people in the world would agree with that. And really quickly, before I move on to the next topic here, I just want to remind people to like, subscribe, and share. Make sure you smash the like button. It helps boost us in the algorithm. Ghadi, I want to ask you a bit more about the support for Hezbollah, because you're talking about how this is reinforced for people in Lebanon, that this is an
Please do
existential
smash
fight.
the like
it's not
button.
just a support fight for Gaza. This is an Israeli war on all of Lebanon. Here in the US, Hezbollah, and you know this, is portrayed as this Iranian proxy that only Lebanese Shia support. But you are, and you're very vocal about this, you come from a Lebanese Christian family. Now, I'm not going to sit here and suggest that, you know, Ghadi's views represent all of the Lebanese Christian sentiment, but you do represent a certain viewpoint from outside the Shia community in Lebanon. So I want to go back to that issue of, you know, the way Hezbollah is portrayed as it's this horrible Islamist organization that has Lebanon, it's holding Lebanon hostage. It's a threat to any non-Shia in Lebanon, and even it's a threat to Shias too. It forces them to support them. So now that Lebanon is being carpet bombed in many areas, it's the Israelis are trying to invade. What is Hezbollah to someone like you in Lebanon in terms of their protective ability in the country?
Well, first of all, I want to answer to that idea whether I represent all the Christians or most of the Christians in Lebanon. Let's talk about the Christians in the Levant. I think I represent 90% of the Christians in Palestine and 90% of the Christians in Syria and around 90% of the Christians that are still in Iraq, not the Iraqi Christians that fled Iraq. So the Levantine Christianity, from the Bishop Atallah Hanna, who's the Bishop of Jerusalem, to Munzir Ishaq, who's the Reverend of Beit Lahem, and to countless reverends and priests in Lebanon and Syria who have vocally supported the rights, the Palestinian rights, and the struggle to liberate Palestine. Inside Lebanon, there is an entity of Zionism Christianity that was planted even before building Lebanon. And that said that the Christianity would be aligned with the Judaism in the area, and they would be allies here as a front to the Islamic region. That was the plan in the 30s. But everything changed with the first invasion when Israel attempted, and it was aligned with the rightists, the Christian rightists in Lebanon. Even back then, they resulted in killing and displacing Christians. And there was Christian civil war induced by the Israelis as well. So in general, this whole idea that the Christianity in Lebanon is aligned with Israel is a bluff. It is made by the mainstream media, and it is only branded and advertised by militias that have always been armed and planted by Zionism since day one in Lebanon. So yes, I do not represent every Christian in Lebanon, but nobody represents every Christian anywhere. And the Levantine Christianity that is rooted in Palestine has to be with resistance and is always within the framework of calling for liberating Palestine without saying pro-Hamas or pro-Hezbollah, but is always with the people. So let me go now to Hezbollah. Hezbollah inside Lebanon is the largest political party. Its political sector is not under sanction. It is not listed as terrorism by the EU. So you have members of the parliament that are elected, and to just FYI, they have the most votes in the Lebanese parliament. The highest numbers of votes are always gained by Mohammed Rad, the head of the Hezbollah bloc in the parliament. So it's not about liking them or disliking them. If you call a dog a cat, it doesn't become a cat. So so the Americans have that idea of saying facts out there and repeating them as mantras to their pets in their foreign policy in the region. And then they're always singing this song and make believe. And this is why they lose in the end. They always lose. The project never works. Condoleezza Rice wanted to make up a new Middle East in 2006. She didn't. She failed because she thought she's empowered enough, because she repeated a song for herself then. And now they repeat a song to themselves Hezbollah, only the Shia, we can distance them from the society. We can just finish them all. We kill their leaders and that's that. Well, even if you kill all the Shias, there will be a new kind of society that will be armed and that will fight you. Because even before the Shia were Hezbollah, there were people in the south that were fighting you. It's about land and rights right now. But if you want to say that it's about the Shia or Hezbollah, the more you oppress them, the more you revive their vengeance and their ideology. And the reason why they are the only group from all the resistance groups that have been emerging in the Lebanese history, the only reason why Hezbollah is the only group that came to you, Netanyahu, is because they have this ideology. This is why they're shooting themselves in the foot. They are reminding every Shia person, not only in Lebanon, in the world, by killing Sayyid Nasrallah, that they have vengeance with them. They just turned 100 million Shia in the Middle East to very angry and very passionate fighters by assassinating Sayyid Nasrallah. Even people who we were discussing today, me and a friend who lives in London and who's always very he's 100% sure that we're going to win. So every time I'm feeling a little bit skeptical, I call him. So he was like, you know something, if I had 80% feeling that we're going to win, after they killed Sayyid Nasrallah, it's 100. And I really feel the same. Because the failure, they needed to go that far to deliver any kind of win, but still not one hostage has been returned. Not one settler came back to northern areas. No, on the contrary, Haifa is displaced now and Tel Aviv tomorrow. And this is the structure, the military structure of Hezbollah is just thriving, and the momentum is growing, while the Israelis deliver no wins. So I don't think in the end, to go back to your question, Hezbollah is not going to crumble. The Lebanese society cannot change its confrontation with the expansionist Zionist entity. To be Christian, you have to be aligned with the only way to remain in your land. Nobody defended the Christianity in Palestine. Nobody defended Christianity in Syria. It is only the armed resistance that was able to maintain the churches in Ma'lula, in Homs, in around Damascus, in Hama, in Hardi. This is during the past decade. So as a Christian in the Middle East, from Nineveh against Daesh, where Qasem Soleimani aided the Iraqi Christians, to Ma'lula against Daesh, where Hezbollah aided the Syrian Christians, to Al-Qa' in Lebanon, where Hezbollah and the Lebanese army defended the Christians. There is no place in the Middle East where being a Christian wasn't preserved by these groups in the last 10 years. So it is only natural to be
Dan
there.
Simpson.
And also because...
Dan, it's nice to see you. Welcome.
They are in the politics in Lebanon. They have to understand, in Lebanon, whatever your media is telling you, the Hezbollah is a political party. It's
proud member of the Only Dan's community.
And you have grown-ups, and you have children, and you have women, and you have seculars, and you have religious people that are aligned with their political idea and their political governance in Lebanon. And they are a part of the parliament, and they sit down with presidents, and they negotiate over national stuff because they are a part of the government. We have ministers that are in their cabinets because of Hezbollah's choice. So Hezbollah is a part of the ruling society and of the society in general. And regardless of the designation that the US uses, it cannot change the fact that 1 million Lebanese or more chose to be represented by Hezbollah. This is your democracy, no? They voted like that.
Well, speaking of democracy, you...
That was so great. That was such a, that was a...
You can count on me.
Long,
have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
You know, non-stop stream of consciousness analysis there, which was fantastic. Kijiji, thanks for gifting us up to our friend Dan Simpson. And it's funny, that was just a non-stop stream. That was a lot of spitting going on there. A lot of spitting of facts happening. The least confident Lebanese national. Yeah. No, that was really great. And it's actually kind of funny because it's on that 1.25 speed. So it's slightly sped up. It seems like she's even more caffeinated and fired up, but it was really great though. This is a really great level of analysis to have on here that I would like to see more of, maybe in our actual media and not just on Breakthrough News. But I do, as always, really respect the work that Rania and the folks at Breakthrough News do in having these kinds of conversations, which we do not get to see elsewhere.
We currently have the Americans, as the Israelis tried to pressure Hezbollah militarily, and you have Netanyahu telling the Lebanese to basically either kill each other or face a Gaza-like situation when he says to rise up and get rid of Hezbollah. And of course, the Israelis are specifically bombing.
I thought you got rid of Hezbollah.
You just become an elite member of the friendship triangle.
Gwynny, thank you so much for 5 gifted subs. I really do appreciate that. Thank you, Gwynny. Very, very kind of you. And once again, I'll remind folks, if you do want to gift batch subs, such as what Gwynny just did right now, currently on sale. There's still a discount ongoing. September is over, but there is a discount on batch subs, as Gwynny just discovered. Gwynny, thank you very much.
It's going to do the opposite. In fact, it's going to make people cling more to those who are protecting them.
If it's right to say so, we'd really thank him for saying that. He's just making people want to like Hezbollah even more. In what logic does a person who kills your children guides you on what to do in politics and you'd listen? I mean, I think Hezbollah would thank him. The more you are speaking against them, the more people want them.
Yeah.
You're bombing us from the skies, man.
But they also, so the Americans at the same time, of course, are speaking of the issue of democracy. They are trying to interfere in the Lebanese political system. They're obsessed for some reason with appointing a president that they like. I don't know if they think that maybe if they get like Joseph Aoun, who they seem to really like, who's head of the Lebanese army, if they get him to be appointed president, somehow Hezbollah just like evaporates. I'm not really sure what the end game is there, but I know there was a man visiting Lebanon today. He's the Biden appointed special envoy who happens to also be, I don't know if he still has Israeli citizenship, but he served in the Israeli army, Amos Hochstein. He came to Lebanon today. He's repeatedly come to Lebanon before October 7th, but a lot after October 7th to act as like an interlocutor between the Israelis and Lebanese officials who don't actually speak because they're technically at war. And he's been pushing this idea of appointing a president. I just very quickly want to play a clip of him in a recent interview because I want to play it as much as possible because some Lebanese seem to think that he's there to promote peace or that he's their friend. But here's Amos Hochstein real quick talking about what he thinks the Lebanese should do based on what he wants.
And at the same time, have a new government, once Lebanon selects a president, have a new government that could address the critical needs of the country.
Once we select a new president, Hedi.
Yeah.
But all that's to say, okay, so that's Amos Hochstein, just so you know what he looks like. He was in Lebanon today. I'm not sure if he's still there, but he met with all the typical players. I believe he met with Nabi Berri. He met with Joseph Aoun. And he's basically, giving them the Israeli line. The Americans, as much as there's those Lebanese in Lebanon who constantly complain about Iranian interference because apparently Iran giving weapons to Lebanese to defend their land is controversial and interference, those same people will never complain about the fact that the Americans are trying to reshape the Lebanese political scene. And I'm just curious if you can explain to our viewers, because Lebanon can feel quite complicated, what is the U.S. doing here? And will it actually work?
The U.S. is doing in politics the parallel force and effort to what the Israelis are doing in military. Amos Hochstein is trying to invest on the bombings that were happening last night above our heads in Beirut. They're trying to see whether we are weak as Lebanese and we're willing to give up. But poor Amos, he has to go back to 2006 and read about the veteran Dick Cheney and his failures with the Lebanese negotiators. When you have a drone that is arriving in Netanyahu's home in the morning, skipping all your air defenses, you don't get the right to tell us what to do. You listen to us, or we send another drone. This is the Lebanese attitude. This is what we are used to. And we do remember many of the scenes that were later reported between Nabi Berri and Condoleezza Rice and the multiple rounds of so-called negotiations. To me, what Amos Hochstein, the ex-Israeli soldier, did today in Lebanon is his first round of many rounds of negotiations. The negotiations are being drawn today in the fire, in Ait al-Shab, and the 4 ballistic missiles and the over 70 missiles that hit different areas, and the 40 missiles that hit Golan Heights today, and in Tel Aviv, a ballistic missile, and in Port of Haifa, another one. And the acceleration and the ascending order and the ascending manner of the rockets that are arriving from Lebanon to the occupied Palestinian territories, these are all empowering points to the Lebanese negotiator. And Nabi Berri is way too veteran, actually. He's actually over veteran in that sense. He's lived all the wars and he has the stamina to go on, and he understands the American brain. So what's happening now is that the negotiations are being built on the ground in the Lebanese ability to maintain the ground. And we have just begun, Rania. The military reports say that Radwan forces are still not in the fight. So what is happening now, the deterrence that is happening in southern Lebanon now is happening in the guerrilla fighting by the front line that is not even the very skilled Radwan fighters. So the military capacities of a Hezbollah fighter is beyond the expectations as a human and as weaponry. So I don't think it's very easy for Mr. Amos to come just few hours after bombing the empty buildings of Qard al-Hassan and build a win on that. He's got to wait a little bit, maybe until we stop, until maybe Lebanon has no more rockets to hit or something. Maybe by then we will let you take our airspace. They're coming and asking for our airspace as if they have already finished the war. Well, come. You are not being able to come on the ground. You just want to take the air as a gift? like that, and it's the beginning of the war. So I think listen, Rania, there was a point where people really thought about negotiations. Me personally, I never believed negotiations. I mean, look at Gaza. 1 year of rounds of talks and negotiations by the Qataris and the Egyptians, and the Egyptians and the Qataris, and the Americans and the French. And what happened in Gaza? Did they stop them? Did they stop the Israelis from executing all the men today? Did they stop them from burning tents, from killing children and women and doctors? Did they stop them from using white phosphorus on people? No. Did they stop them from doing anything? Did they stop them from raping prisoners?
Can't negotiate with terrorists.
Did they stop them from skinning and stealing organs from the bodies after slaughtering them? Negotiations, what are you talking about after 45,000 martyrs in Gaza? Negotiations, what are you talking about? Who buys that negotiations from the Americans? Well, the Americans told the Iranians and the French, they all had a deal on the day where stupid Netanyahu chose to assassinate Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah from New York. So the Americans can't even control that tantrum killing spree kind of man. They either can't control him or they fake that they can't control him because he's actually doing what they want him to do. But both ways tells me one thing. I don't buy their negotiators or their negotiations. We have practiced a lot of fake.
We talked about this, the negotiations and what they want. They want this. I keep repeating this. They want this Saudi normalization deal, security pact. That's their whole negotiation. That's all it is. That's what they want. They want a fake non-democratic state for Palestine in name only, which is with full under Saudi and U.S. democratic oversight and a security pact with the Saudis. That's what all this negotiation is about. That's all. And full surrender, full-scale, total surrender on the part of Palestinians. No more organized resistance, no more nothing. Full-scale surrender, and you get a pretend state that's going to be overseen by the Saudi Arabia and the U.S. government. That's what they're negotiating.
Bluffing kind of talks from the West in this 77 years of struggle. And there's like one of the very few good things that I know and repeat from Arafat is that it's only power that brings you back land. Okay, so negotiations cannot bring you back land.
That's true.
It's almost like where political power flows from. That famous saying, where political power flows from the good negotiations. That famous saying. Anyway, this is a really fantastic interview. I would like to look at more of this, but I don't really have time to watch the rest, but I really encourage everyone else to watch the rest of that. Please make sure that you're subscribe to Breakthrough News, that you give likes to these videos, because this is really fantastic analysis that we really just don't get anywhere else. Please make sure you're looking at that. I am going to have to get going soon, folks. Again, it was a little bit of a shorter stream today. I did cut down on the chit chat, so hopefully we did get to some decent stuff here, some decent analysis, discourse, whatever it is. Political power comes from the barrel of civil discourse. Thank you. That's how that saying goes. I was trying to remember how that goes. But that's what it is, I think. But yeah, I do appreciate everyone for tuning in today. One final call to action: if you can please subscribe to this stream. Trying to make this little number at the bottom of the screen go up each and every day. Political power comes from the stroke of a pen in the voting booth. Exactly. That's so inspirational saying. Please subscribe if you can, folks. Help me make the little number go up. We got batch subs on discount right now from Twitch. So that's how you support this program if you can. And when you do, it helps keep the show on the air. You support the show, support the community, support the work that I do here on Twitch, get all the little tiny images and all that good stuff. And you can be part of this wonderful, wonderful community. What do you say? What do you say, folks? I've got to get going soon. I've got to pick a certain someone up from work. A few minutes, so I got to get going. But hopefully we did have a good amount of time to get into some good stuff today. Some good discourse. I was about to say Rob is muted, but it turned out
you can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
I've not been muted for quite a while. It's been a while since I've been muted.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
That certain someone, yep, Poodler. That's right. Exactly right. Comrade Bushy, thank you for the 2 gifted subs. I really appreciate all the support, Comrade Bushy. Thank you for that. Thank you, Powerless Pod, as well, for the gifted sub. Brandon, very much appreciated. Thank you for that. Brandon, I will DM you about this. We may be able to find some time in the next week to have a little chit chat. I know we've been trying to organize that for a while. So I've been really all over the place, but maybe let's try and find a time to do that in the next week or so, okay? I'm sending my son to work in the mines. That's right. Listen, someone's got to pick up the slack. Your dad is a fucking internet guy. So we got to get this rolling. We got to get this moving. I desperately need to hear the VJ alert. It would be pretty good to hear the VJ alert, especially with the fact that there's this campaign to cancel him for taking what I view as correct stances on certain controversial subjects. You like Minecraft? Well, get at it. Exactly. It's just like that. Many hands make light work, however small those hands may be. It's just like Donald Trump, eh, Carnoba? Got the smallest hands you can imagine. Got small hands, that man. And this is the kind of incisive, subversive commentary you get when you tune into this program. He's a dang Cheeto, folks. There's just no getting around that. He's a dang Cheeto. Thanks, Rob. I hope you have a beautiful day. I tried an Ambrosia apple yesterday. Definitely mid compared to the Honey Crisp or Cosmic Crisp. I actually picked up some Honey Crisp cider the other day, and it was tremendous. I can't stop saying that's an awfully hot coffee pot. Every time I make coffee in the morning, my girlfriend hates it, and with good cause. It's hard not to say it, though. Still about 40 seconds left if anyone else wants to support this program. It's still possible. Is there a brave hero? Gala apples are pretty good, Kijiji Genie. Those are definitely, they would be in like, they're a top 3 to 5 apple for me. Maybe number 2, honestly. I think the Gala apples can be nice. Thanks again for tuning in, folks. I don't think I'm going to be around tomorrow. I'm going to be on the move. Tomorrow, so I'll be back Thursday. Thanks again for tuning in and for all the support, folks. I appreciate you all very much. Talk to you soon.